Okay, so we're recording, right. So episode 23, and we're here with my old buddy Spencer Price. Spencer is the director and the kind of brand creator of 365 Strength. Spencer, you bit of a background yourself in sports, so boxing, jiu-jitsu, CrossFit,
Thai boxing,
boxing,
weight training. Yeah,
the lot.
yeah, pretty much had my hand in a lot of different martial arts. Weight training's probably been the one that's been there the longest. So, did a bit of boxing as well. Always wanted to be a boxer from the early ages. Seen Mike Tyson in his early days, and I thought I want to do that, but my mum would never let me.
Did we train at the same club when you were young? Were you at Aston ABC as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we must have. I think I was in the army when you must have been training there, because I used to come back and train there with a pal of mine who was a regional champ at Aston, a lad called Mark Lassisi, and he was on the army team with me, and then we used to go back and train there. So I probably missed you at that particular period. And John Homer.
Yes. Well, I used to know John because I was training at Apollo Gym in Perrybar, the weight training gym, about 15, and then Steve Logan and opened up K-Star Thai boxing next door, and John was like his good friend, and I got to know John for there because I started at K-Star, but then years later he left and started the boxing up, so it was good to see him again. He was a good guy.
Yeah. Well, that gym's really come on now, and it's a good feeder gym for some of the best boxers in the West Midlands. And you know, if you think about some of the people that came from there, you know, it's fantastic. It's a great gym to be under and train. So today on the podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about brand development, how you set up 365, you know, your training methods and stuff that you're into at the moment. And then towards the later end, we're going to touch on some men's health later on as well. And you can share your story, which I think is incredible. And it was quite interesting because when you discussed it with me initially and we kind of touched base, I hadn't actually heard of, I hadn't heard of the condition. We'll come on to it a little bit more. So if we talk about 365 Strength for the time being, where did that kind of come from, and how did you come up with it, and why set up your own clothing brand?
Ultimately, I wanted to get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu around when my eldest daughter was born, around 2010, and I kept pushing my wife. You know, we got our first child, and she was like, you know, I don't want you going training. We've just got a new baby. And I was like, I want to go. And I put it off. Started there, Gracie Barra Warsaw with Neil Simkin. Loved it, fell in love with it. Got into it, did it about a year and a half. Then I started having issues with my shoulder. Kept putting it off, and I thought, oh, it's just a little niggle. Kept me more and more problems, to the point where I was struggling to put my shirt on to go to work, to do my hair. So unfortunately I had to stop jiu-jitsu for a bit because it was making it worse, you know, with all the grappling. I just couldn't. I was in agony, taking tablets, seeing the doctor. Doctor was like, you know, just give it rest, ice it, blah blah blah. So I stopped. I had more time on my hands because I was actually waiting for an MRI, and I was about 6 month wait, and I was bored. And for a while, I'd been looking into affiliate marketing. I had an interest in building websites and earning passive income on the side of my main job. So I started looking into building a website based on fitness because it's of an interest of mine. And I thought, right, if I could start doing a blog on martial arts, training, and then having affiliate links. So I looked at all the different programs and I built a website and got various links on there, and didn't actually set it up properly because the summer came around by this point, and I was in a shop down the road and I saw a magazine with a guy called Rich Froning, who's probably the greatest CrossFitter there's been, and it had CrossFit on there. And I looked at this magazine and I picked it up, I bought it, took it back home, read it, and I was just like, I want to try this. This looks good. Weirdly, with the summer, the warmer days, the shoulder was a hell of a lot better. Just felt great, because when I first had the pains was in the winter time. Now, this is something my dad always used to suffer from when he was alive. He was riddled with arthritis. In the winter, he was always in agony. In the summer, when you go on holiday, he used to feel great. And it was the same. The shoulder felt brilliant, although I wasn't putting it under the same level of stress. So weirdly, week or two later on Facebook, an advert came up for a CrossFit gym down the road. So I started.
Sorry, where's down the road for you? Just for the listeners.
About a mile away, CrossFit Warsaw, because I live in Aldridge. So it's CrossFit Warsaw at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, I'll go and do it. Fell in love with it, started training 5 days a week. And then I thought, right, I can change this blog now into a blog on like a diary of my training program. And because I became obsessed with CrossFit, I was like, I'll get the affiliate links for stuff like Reebok, Nike, associated with CrossFit clothing, bulk powders for protein shakes, all that type of stuff. Got it up and running. And I came up with the name because I was always into strength training and always modeled my training into my life rather than just doing, so many people that you see who would go and just hit the gym just to lose a few pounds for a wedding or a holiday. Whereas me, even now, my training is part of my life, like getting up and going to work each day. I do something, it's what I do. So that's where the name came from, of 365, training pretty much all year round. The strength part came from, obviously the strength training element, but also the mental side of when you have injuries, or no matter what life throws at you, these people that still get out there and do some level of fitness training or something to improve their life. So that was where the name kind of came from. Started, really loving it, enjoying training, adding to the blog. And then the shoulder issue came back probably about 8 months later, to the point where I had to have an operation.
What was your diagnosis, Spencer?
Just basically wear and tear.
Okay, so some arthritis, some arthritic changes.
Yeah, the specialist said you'd be very surprised the amount of guys over the age of 30 that have this condition. He said, especially tradesmen, plasterers, that type of stuff. I was very surprised because I'd never heard of it, and the fact that I've always pretty much had office jobs, so I've been into my weight training, but never had any niggles, never had any problems until this point. And I just put it down to a bit of bad luck, and had the operation, had more time on my hands. But then I sat there with the blog thinking, okay, so I can't blog about my fitness because I'm not doing anything again, because I couldn't lift my arm, etc. So surfing the internet, looking at different stuff, and then I thought, a clothing brand. It just popped into my mind one day. I thought, you know what, I'd like to do something on that basis, for bodybuilding, CrossFit, strongman, any type of fitness, whether it, even sport, rugby, martial arts. And that's where the idea came from. Then my dad became ill. He's come down with vascular dementia, and we had about 3 years of he slowly declining. So I kind of put it on the back burner, because as a family we were caring for him, and kind of didn't feel like I had enough time to put everything into it. So I was playing around with it in the background, but I wasn't putting anything really what I should have been into it, with work, family life, looking after my dad. And in this time as well, I managed to have another 2 operations on shoulders. So I've had 3 in total, 2 on the one on the other, various steroid injections into my wrists as well from my training. So I do feel from, say, 35 onwards, I'm starting to fall apart. But I still push my body through the pain, and which I enjoy, but I'm hoping I won't suffer when I'm a bit older, So so
hold on there, Spencer. Hang on a second, mate. Something happened to the internet. Okay,
Where do you
we're
have it
back.
to?
So a little connection issue there, so that's fine. So sorry, carry on, Spencer. So initially, so it was about balancing it out. Obviously, your dad was obviously his health was deteriorating.
Hmm.
Family life, a few injuries and a few operations as well. And as well as you, because you got a day job as well, haven't you? So
Yeah.
this was also trying to build or develop this passive income was
Hmm.
around this.
Yeah. My dad unfortunately passed away 2017 in the July. A few months went by, and I just thought to myself, I'm going to do this now. I've got no excuse, and I wanted to think he'd be proud if I did want to made something of myself and something I enjoyed and was a real interest to me. Spoke to a few friends, and they were like, just do it. And I was like, I'm going to do it. So I'd saved some money up, spent a couple of months trying to find the right company, the right logo, dealing with websites like Fiverr, where it's all full of graphic designers across the world, trying to find the right logo, back and forth with different designs, got the right logo, then trying to find the right printers, the right type of design. And then we launched in December 2017, and it was just a great feeling when I had that first batch delivered, opening it up, thinking, this is something I've made. And then the next step was build a website and get it out there, and it's kind of it's snowballed ever since. Across the globe, basically, we've got people worldwide now wearing it, contacting us. It's not big enough that I can give up my job yet, but from the last 3 years, where it's gone from a thought to, and on very little money invested as well, and it's just a lot of word of mouth, very organically grown.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. I mean, I think, in business, isn't it? And I've experienced this having run my own practice and limited company. First year, you're not supposed to turn a profit. Second year, you might be lucky if you break even. And then third year, you should be breaking even or at least making some sort of minimal profit. And then after that that's where you see, it's the 3 year kind of step. And then you start seeing some growth and development. So I think with minimal investment, you've done pretty well. And I didn't realize that it was, gone across the globe and you were getting interest from overseas, which is fantastic, mate, because it's such a big market. There is so many different brands. It's very hard to, differentiate. I mean, I've got a favorite brand that I like using. I really like the tatami stuff, which is relevant to BJJ. But yeah, that must be great. I mean, you got to put your own stamp on things as well. And I think it'd be worse having wanted to do that and not, well, maybe having wanted to do something like that, but not put the effort in. It's great doing it and then failing, because then at least you can say, well, I had a go and I wasn't successful. Again, I can hold my hands up to, that type of experience, but I learned so much from it, and it seems to be like you're doing really well.
It was doing well. I mean, like I would imagine so many businesses and people have experienced, the pandemic has not made it come to a stop. It's slowed down a lot. I think, people have lost their jobs, people are on furlough, there's not as much money to spend, and that's not a surprise. So it has been hampered massively through the lockdown. Obviously with gyms closed as well. It's kind of, it's understandably slowed down, which I'm just hoping when all this, is back to normal, when we are back to normal, hopefully sooner than later, things will pick up, gyms will be open, and hopefully we can try and get the brand rolling again. So that's the plan. But
had you ever any experience in the past of doing anything like this before?
I've literally, Google has been my best friend. YouTube. I mean, I built 2 websites myself, literally learned everything myself. Luckily, I've good friends with our IT team at work, and on a good basis, where I'd message them of an evening saying, "Oh, what do I do here? I'm stuck," and they'd help me out with stuff. But pretty much everything myself, which I'm proud of as well, because I'm not massively techie. And I work in financial services, so I haven't got a techie background in that respect. So, but I just thought, I'm going to do it. I don't want to pay someone to do it. It's not that hard. It's just having the time and the concentration to, sit down and apply it.
How do you stay motivated then?
It's tough because because it hasn't. I mean, I see other brands have come and they've just gone for the roof, but I found they've had a lot of investment behind them, or certain other aspects like YouTube channels, and you see that, and sometimes I think, is this worth it? Am I just wasting my time? But then you'll get so many people contact it. I love the brand, I love the logo, I love the message behind it, I love the clothing, and I think, it's that's the motivation. And I've done loads of CrossFit shows. I've done a strongman show where we go and have a stand and we like a vendor at the shows, and seeing people compete or walk around with the clothing on, it's a pretty proud moment, because you're thinking that's something an idea I've brought to life, and people actually paying to wear that stuff. And the one good thing I'm proud of, in 3 years I've had one return, and that was purely, it was an item sold at an event, and it had a little nick on the front on the hoodie, and they loved the hoodie. I just replaced it, but it had a little hole, so it must have been caught on something, but it wasn't because they didn't like the product. So that's something that I'm quite very proud of. So
what's that, like a 99.9% success rate?
mm-hmm.
That's pretty good so far, mate.
Yeah, that's on good. So just touch wood, it continues.
Yeah. What is your catchment area? Who are you trying to?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I've often thought, have I shot myself in the foot with this? When I did it, because going back to my background I've done weight training since I was 15. I've done Thai boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've done Krav Maga, played rugby, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and all different types of martial arts. I was like, although my passion at that time, and still is, CrossFit, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into just CrossFit wear, because it's such a broad spectrum. I love bodybuilding, I love strongman. I've been following strongman since I was a young lad. So it's aimed at everyone. A massive broad, my wife, she trains at a fitness studio down the road where they do Zumba and dance and fitness classes for ladies. A lot of those ladies all wear them as well, and it's aimed, it's not aimed at the super fit who compete and the professionals only. It's for everyone. That's the message. I've had it as well before, of people who train where I train in Cannock, and they say, oh, I'd love your top, but I'm not strong enough, or I'm not good enough to wear it yet. And I'm just like, that's the wrong way to look at this.
So I suppose it's about getting the message out beyond the brand, which is, look, it's about not just physical strength but mental strength, 365 days a week.
I mean, I was aiming at a 45-year-old who's got a family, who's probably put a load of weight on, who's had health conditions, and he's got himself off the city, and he's putting the effort in at the gym. Or the mom who's had 4 kids and she's put a lot of weight on, and she's then finally got a confidence to go back to the gym. Or then you've got the athletes who are at the top of their game, pretty much broad spectrum, bodybuilders, strongmen, crossfitters, powerlifters, which we're getting the interest from. I've got a lot of servicemen in the Navy who do strongman, powerlifting, a lot of crossfitters, bodybuilders, boxers. So it's working to that extreme, but I think it needs more coverage to cover all those big areas. So
how do you deal with that? I mean, how much time do you spend marketing?
I'm on it daily. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and then I have a lot of ambassadors who do the same daily, and that'd be in the UK, Spain, Italy, America, Sweden, Germany, and they're a lot of them could be quite, whether it's competitive bodybuilding or in competitions, posting daily, and I'll have hundreds of thousands of followers. So that's helping on an organic basis. I've kind of stayed away from the paid advertising because I've found that can just, unless you know what you're really doing, can be very, very costly. So I've kind of stayed away from that, which is probably costing me in terms of growth. But because I can't at the moment give it my all 100% because of full-time job, family, then I'm just literally plugging away, trying to build it as organically as I can, really.
So you work a full-time job, what's that, 37, 40 hours a week?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is it two or three children?
Two children.
Two children.
They're now at an age where they're playing netball or other activities as well. So that takes up a lot of time.
As well as running this in the background. My God, how many hours a week are you working? As well as getting your training in?
Yeah. Well, I'm just about to take on study as well for my job as well, my full-time job, which is going to lead to a postgraduate course, which is going to be a lot of study time. So I try and, with the brand, I could spend hours. I could literally spend 6-7 hours, in the morning when I get up, of an evening when the kids have gone to bed. I could sit on it for hours, commenting on posts on Twitter, trying to get engagement. But I don't want to get lost in that because then I've got family life. Going what you mentioned earlier about my own personal health, I found that sleep is a massive issue for me, which I'm now trying to be very strict on obtaining 8 hours of sleep a night, because I'm finding it really helps, where I could easily stay up till 12, half 12 of the night, looking on social media, looking at posts, creating posts, and then getting up at 6 o'clock to train. I'm not getting enough sleep, and that would have a knock-on effect for the rest of the week because I keep doing it as a cycle. So sleep now is something I'm really working on, along with my training. So ultimately, I'm probably doing less each day on the brand. I'm kind of, I suppose, not leaving it up, but with the help of ambassadors, I kind of have a team who are helping me promote it at the same time. So it's not just myself. I've probably got 20 to 30 people on a daily basis promoting it for me as well, off their own backs, which is good.
That is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whilst we're on that subject, that seems like a kind of a good segue into talking about your health. So, well, I'll let you lead. You were diagnosed with a condition not so long ago, 2-3 years ago, or?
Yeah. I mean, diagnosed officially, but it's been going on now for, again, when my dad was ill, I noticed it first come about before he was really ill. But when he became very ill, I kind of again put that on the back burner about really getting it sorted out, but it was there. But yeah, I was diagnosed with the doctors as having low testosterone back in 2018. Now, I first noticed it, again, CrossFit, everything was going great. It was the summer. I used to train at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I felt great. The weight was good. I felt I was fittest I'd ever been. And I remember one morning, everything was feeling good. We were in the middle of a workout where it was, say, 5 rounds where you might have to lift a barbell, pull-ups, burpees, 400-meter run, X amount of times. And we went out for the run, and I'm not the quickest, not the fittest, but I was doing okay at this time. That period where I felt light, I felt good, I felt fit, felt strong. And we went out for the run, and it was like suddenly I was walking or running through treacle. My legs just would not move. And I was just like, people were running ahead of me, and I'm thinking, something didn't feel right. Something just felt so wrong. And I was just like, I came in last, and I was like, okay. I went back out another 4 times or 5 times, and the same thing. And I was like, well, I just put it off as having a bad day. Everything else felt okay. A couple of weeks went by, carried on training, felt normal. I then went with a competition with my friend in Bristol. We did it was called the Superhuman Games in Bristol in a big park. And over the course of a day, hundreds of different people doing all different like CrossFit strongman type workouts. And the opening workout, it was a 20-minute workout with your partner, and it was like thrusters and burpees and shuttle sprints. And the weight on the bar was like 30 kg, which to me is nothing. And I remember I had to do some like 10 thrusters with 30 kg, and it was the first workout of the day. It was like 9:30 in the morning. And I remember 2 or 3 thrusters in, I had to put the bar down, and I stopped because I was like, it weighed a ton. I was just like, what the hell's wrong with me? You know, I'm doing, at the moment, I can do my 1 rep max thrusters like 80 kg. And with 30, I had to put the bar down, and people were going, what's the matter? I was like, I don't know, I can't do it. And the weight, it's so heavy. And I managed to get through the workout, but I was like, in my head, something's not right. The rest of the day went on. I did okay, but just didn't feel great. And then this kept happening more and more and more. And I started Googling, because anything I find, I want to get my head in. I Google, which is probably not the best, but you can find out a lot of information. So I started Googling a lot of information, but again, I was going nowhere. So a good friend of mine who first got me into weight training back when I was 15, a guy named Stuart, he's very, very clued up on bodybuilding, the body as a whole, nutrition, etc. And I just messaged him, because literally anything I ask him about the body, he seems to have an answer for. He's very clued up. And he asked me, he said, I mean, I'm 44 now, so I would have been at 30, 37, I think. And he said, do you still wake up every morning with a hard on? And I went, I had to think about it, because I was like, I haven't actually thought about this for a while. And I was like, I said, now come to think about it. No. And he said, that's a clear sign you may be suffering from low testosterone. And I was like, what's low testosterone? So again, research. And about a month later, I was at Body Power at Birmingham, the big fitness show. I was walking around, and there was a stand there. There was a company called Medichecks, and they're a Nottingham-based company where basically they took my details and they send a pack out in the post, and you prick your finger, put the blood in the container, send it off, and you get a full lab report back. And lo and behold, the report came back that I was very, very low. So I was like,
in testosterone.
I was kind of happy though. I was kind of happy, because I thought, right, I have evidence. I'll go to the doctor and I'll be fixed. This was then the start of a very long and painful journey dealing with the NHS, which, if you Google it, they're just but very bad on the subjects. Very, very bad. They're not well respected in the UK, whereas people in America, they give out testosterone like Smarties. It's crazy. I Googled a lot of forums and stuff on guys being on testosterone, people with issues, and everyone said, your doctor will have a look at you and say you're depressed. And I was reading this, and I took it with a pinch of salt. So I showed him my results, and they have a scale, and it's like the scale's around about 8.5 up to about 29, and they measure it in nanomoles per liter. Now, I think the average male, could be wrong, but is around about 18 to 20, something around about that. And as you get older, you naturally start decreasing in testosterone. You know, your bones get weaker, you lose your hair, you know, manhood problems, etc. You know, as we get older, we get weaker. This is all classic signs of your testosterone reducing. But mine was reducing at a faster level. I mean, at 37, it shouldn't have been where it was. My score came back at 9. Now, at the time, the NHS's level was like 8.5, so I wasn't off the scale. So I presented to the doctor, and he said, yeah, it's low, but you're fine, you're just depressed. And I was like, I'm not depressed. And he's like going through details, my history. He said, well, your father's just passed away, My sister-in-law had just passed away at this point. He said, you know, this is all a build-up. You're depressed. And I was just like, no, I'm not having it. I said, before my father passed away, before my sister-in-law passed away, I was feeling this issue with my training. I said, oh, I'm sleeping properly. I said, mentally, I'm starting to feel like my mind was going like mush. My concentration levels, memory, I couldn't think properly at times. And I was like, no. And he said, right, he wanted to prescribe antidepressants. So I said, no, I'm not taking that. Went back home, spoke to my friend again. He said, right, I'll put you in touch with a professional clinic. But it's costly.
Is this in the UK?
Yeah. A guy in Birmingham. So I went and had some bloods there. But in the meantime, I kept going back to the doctors for more blood tests. And I demanded to see the top guy at the doctor's, the local surgery down the road. And I saw another guy, and he again was like, no, you're depressed, and tried to give me the leaflet. It was like a Samaritan's thing. And at this point, I was starting to get really angry because it was just like they weren't prepared to help me, because I was, in my mind, I was convinced I had low testosterone. I got the results. All the websites and everyone I spoke to, all the symptoms were there. And I was convinced, I'd convinced myself. I finally got to see the top doctor because I was getting to the point I was going to make a complaint because it just felt they weren't taking me seriously enough. And I told him everything. I poured my heart out to him, and he agreed that for the NHS, they were going to put me on testosterone, which if you Google, is very, very, very rare, very rare. And they started me on a treatment of an injection every 3 months, which at first I thought, fantastic. This is going to be perfect. I'll be back to normal. I'll be, get on with life. Things will be good. It didn't work like that. So,
wow. So was this TRT, testosterone replacement therapy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
They put me on for the NHS. I've learned so much, but with the NHS, they only mainly deal with a product called Nebido, and you have it's a slow releasing testosterone. So what they do, they inject it into your buttocks every 3 months, and it's slow, drains very slowly into the body. So, but what I've learned at first, because they put so much into you, I mean, a big container in one go over like a 2-minute period, I felt fantastic. I remember having an injection. I went home, and the wife went, "What's wrong with you?" She said, literally came strolling in, smile on my face. She said, just changed instantly. Woke up the next morning, felt on top of the world. And this went on for a few weeks, but then came the dip, because it's such a slow releasing product. You have waves like this. So I'd feel good, and then a massive crash. Had probably 3 rounds of that product, and I started speaking to my friend again, and he said, it's not that great. He said, there's others out there, but I spoke to the doctor, and he went, we can't give you any other products. So I was like, back to square one. I said, I'd rather come off it than be on that product, because A, I was paying for it, and B, I was having more downs than ups, and it just wasn't worth it. So I came off that for a bit, and then I did more research, spoke to various other companies. There's quite a few companies in the UK that actually do private testosterone therapy. And I came across then the company that I'm with now, which is the Men's Health Clinic down in Bournemouth. And they've just been fantastic. They prescribed me with testosterone cypionates, which I inject daily. And it's been the best thing I think I've ever had. I feel great. I feel strong. I feel good. It took a while to dial it into the right measurement for myself, because it's a bit of a playing game, because your body's got to adjust to it, regular blood tests. But we're just about to that point now where I'm feeling very, very good. So I'm glad I followed it up, because like I said to my wife, had I been the type of person that would have just took the doctor's advice and not been the type of person that wouldn't Google stuff and try and find out something like a dog with a bone, and just took it that I was depressed, I could be here now at 44, just down, or not here maybe, because it was starting to affect my mental health. I mean, I was having some very dark periods where I was just like, I can't carry on like this. I even said to the doctor, I physically cannot live the rest of my life feeling like this. I said, I feel shit. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't have any enjoyment with things. I felt depressed. Training, I felt weak. When I did train, I had no motivation. I was just weight gain, everything. So that turned me more to, I wanted to drink more. I didn't want to do anything. And it was just, wasn't good. But now, you know, I'm glad I made that decision.
Did they ever get to the bottom, Spencer, as to why at such a young age you went through that?
It's just, it honestly, I mean, I'll come to this in a minute. On the back of it, I've now created, which I want to start doing like you with podcasts. I've created a website and a Instagram page called the Testosterone Diaries. Now, I don't claim to be an expert. It's a massive interest, but what I want to start doing is interviewing guys like you do, guys who have suffered what I've gone through, or think they're going through, or other hormonal issues, because you hear so much about women going through the menopause and having HRT, and in this country they get HRT very, very easily. Okay, in this country you cannot get TRT for men very easily. Now, my personal belief after all this, I do honestly believe there are thousands and thousands of men out there, whether they train or not, going through what they call the midlife crisis, you know, marriage, stressful jobs, don't have time to train, drinking, eating more, weight gain, but don't feel themselves anymore, you know, feel a bit crap. I feel a massive percentage of these people could possibly be suffering low testosterone or hormonal issues, and a simple blood test can give them the answers to that. So I wanted to do this podcast to try and raise awareness, really, and listen to people's stories of, because everyone's got a different story of how it affected them, how they found out about it. You know, I know of one guy through a friend of a friend who I train with. His body was producing almost zero testosterone, and I think about 35, he was signed off from work, he retired. He's on like a pension now, but he's not in good health. But you know, I think there's a lot of, I mean, the company that I use, we're on a Facebook forum, and there's people all over the world that use this clinic, a lot of famous people as well, and there are thousands and thousands of guys, some in their 20s and a lot of people in the 40s, 50s, 60s who are going through the same process of treatment. And it's so good and cool to see the amount of people that, how it's turned their life around. And I want to be able to show people that might be thinking, what's wrong with me, but don't know where to start, that something could be wrong, and go and get checked. Because, you know, I was fortunate. I've got people in the fitness game, as you like, who pointed me in that right direction. And me being inquisitive, wanted to find out more, because I was adamant there was something wrong. But other guys could be like, this is just life. This is just getting old. This is just, I've got a beer belly. I don't train. I'm going to feel shit. I stay up late watching sports, you know. But I think your mental fitness, your physical fitness, you've got to work on it constant. And testosterone have a massive impact on you mentally and physically.
So where can people find, what's the name of this Facebook group, please, Spencer?
It's the Men's Health Clinic, but there's lots, there's hell of a lot. There's, I mean, just Googling the subject as a whole, it's not like you said, you didn't know about it yourself. It's kind of a taboo subject.
Yeah, I'd come across low testosterone, but I'd never come across it in anyone similar age to myself or anyone younger or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, you kind of pick it up where it's expected, late 50s, maybe in your 60s. But yeah, I mean, your case was the first one where I was like, wow, that is, you know, that's super serious or super rare. But like you said, I mean, the problem is, unfortunately, especially when it comes to men's health, there are some kind of maybe self-imposed inequalities in care. All right, and that is because men aren't, the evidence will support that we're not as good as frequenting or going to the doctors as regular. And when we do go to the doctors, okay, we might not be as open. We are very much I will just get on with it and put up and shut up type thing. Okay, so things like testicular cancer has a massive higher rate, with the male population because they don't go and report it or they don't check it enough. Because males have got testicles and females have. That's not one of the reasons why it's a higher rate, but it's because we don't go to the doctor, and we don't say, well, look, I'm suffering with this. And that's the problem. And I suppose your case is a fine example of going and saying, look, I think it is, and then almost being letterboxed into, well, it's depression. And I'd say that in the experience in itself was pretty depressing and made you feel depressed.
What something that did just reminded me, I remember sitting in the doctor's office, their surgery, the top doctor, and not a junior, another doctor. He called him in and they were talking, and I'd got some other bloods from somewhere else, and I had a blood test done in Birmingham at this other clinic, and I was rattling off a load of facts about stuff, and they was looking at me, and the one was Googling, and they were both looking at each other, and he went, he's right, and I'm sitting there going, I can't believe I've got two doctors who are probably on stupid money, and they're going, Googling it, going, yeah, he's right, and I'm going, I can't believe this. It's just crazy.
I mean, so the problem is, sometimes if you do go in, the term general practitioner is, they are general practitioners. Okay, and if you do go in sometimes armed with a bit of self-knowledge, some doctors might go on the back foot and think, well, he's been online, he's looked this up, he doesn't really understand X, Y, and Z, and there's a due process of investigation. And I'm quite surprised they didn't run extensive bloods very early on to recognize, because we could tell so much from what's inside your blood, certain markers, and they could have picked that up. And then from there, they could have done further tests. On your thyroid, did you have a functional test on your thyroid?
I had thyroid, but they wouldn't do testosterone because I've learned, and this is another thing, the testosterone test for them is quite expensive. So I demanded blood tests. They ran blood tests, but they would not touch testosterone. And I was just like, I don't want any other bloods taken. I just want testosterone, but they wouldn't do it. I had arguments. And so I was then going to Medichecks, paying, 80 quid or whatever it was at the time for the full spectrum test of all my hormones. And I'd go back and go, look, here we are. I've done a lot of research, spoke to a lot of people now, that it is a taboo subject, even with the NHS, because I've even read stuff about GPs very lightly touch on stuff like testosterone in medical school. Unless they are a specialist, they stay well clear of it. So the go-to is depression. Now, I was speaking to a guy who's very clued up on the subject, and he was saying, in America, so many guys 40 upwards just on testosterone. I even spoke to, when I was struggling, I spoke to a guy on Instagram. He was a doctor and he was promoting all this testosterone therapy, and I messaged him saying, this is my issue, the NHS will not help me. And he said, get on a plane, come over to Florida, I'll sort you out. And I was just like, I've got work tomorrow, I can't just do that.
I've only got half an hour lunch break.
I was like, I can't just come to Florida. I was like, but that got me thinking how easy it was and how manageable it was. People, it's just obviously the UK, there was an issue, so that made me more determined to go, right, I can get help, I will get help. But then I started buying books. I've got this one here. This is, if you can see it, you can see that.
Yeah,
that's a very good book. A lot of knowledge there. Stuff like this. So I started reading up and giving myself a bit of knowledge on the subject as well. I watched a YouTube video of Dorian Yates, the bodybuilder.
Yeah,
because he's on the same TRT as well.
Okay.
But I think a lot of the big bodybuilders, they're on it because they've abused their body in the years from steroids, it's reduced their testosterone anyway, so they have to be on it for their own health. But he did a YouTube video with the doctor who prescribes my testosterone, and they were saying, why is it such a big issue in the UK? And their belief is that they believe that the NHS believe that if they made it as easily available like HRT, all the gym boys would be on it, trying to bulk up in the gyms and be overdosing on it and trying to take advantage of it. So they believe that that's one of the reasons why it's not so readily available. Whereas, and the money. Another story is like in Germany, apparently they trialed something where, I don't know if it's the norm there now, but they were looking at studies of pensioners, 70s, 80s, 90s, and all the ailments of treating them through their health service, and it was costing a lot of money. And they were seeing that a lot were suffering from, very severe low testosterone in the late ages, and the knock-on effect was costing a lot of money to look after. So they thought, if we treated people at 40 with replacement therapy, then this will promote them to be in very good state in the 70s, 80s, and they won't have a lot of these issues, which will then be more cost effective to the health
Later
service.
on. Yeah.
And I think that's a cracking idea. It's, and you would get so many different levels of fitter people going into their elderly, pension lives. I think more needs to be done, really do, because it's so deep in how far this can go, because it can affect people's mental health, depression, suicide, and people might not know what it is, and to get that label, it's depression, when it could be, but brought on by XYZ. But
did you find, Spencer, that your diet played a lot in this as well, or?
I've always ate well. I mean, I love beer. I even now I train hard, but on a weekend I'll still have beer. So it's my vice. I don't eat a lot of chocolate. I don't smoke, but I love going out for a beer. But I've always ate well. Always pretty clean. On a weekend, like last weekend with the kids, we went to the chip shop. I'll have a takeaway now and again, but generally I eat very well, always have done. Probably when I was feeling bad, my alcohol intake probably increased, which wasn't helping. Staying up late because couldn't be asked to get off the settee to go to bed. Social media, TV, drinking, sleep played a part in it as well, because I wasn't getting probably 7 to 8 hours at night. I was probably getting 5 or 6. Stressful day at work, feeling worse and worse, and it was just a big knock-on effect. Whereas, like I said before, sleep's a real important thing for me now, so I make sure I get a good 8 hours, working on 5 to 10,000 steps a day, training 3 or 4 times a week, drinking water, taking my vitamins, my testosterone, trying to just be generally, but I still, like a drink, so I won't be completely anal about it. So I'll try and get a bit of a happy medium. So
I think it's it's very hard to live your life like a monk, completely dedicated, and I think people should not be so hard on themselves if you do like a beer. That everything, as long as it's within moderation.
What makes me laugh where I work, there's a big call center upstairs. I work downstairs in the technical compliance area. Another Friday they'll have pizzas. Most Fridays, this is pre-COVID, and there's a big amount, there's like 100 odd people, and they're all swarming in pizzas. And then because everyone knows I'm a bit of a fitness nut and eat clean, now and again I'll go and have a slice of pizza, and you get, what are you doing? You can't eat that. And I'm just like, why? Just stuff
I'll
like
burn
that
it off later, don't worry.
Yeah. So
well, that's good, mate. That's good. I mean, it sounds, from tough situations, you get the most growth and you get the best kind of outcome, as in the fact that you've set up a community, you've set up these pages, you're turning this kind of essentially negative situation that you've been through yourself okay, into something positive for someone else. And I think it's great. Is the podcast up and running now, or is that something?
No, not yet. I've set the Instagram page up. It's something I wanted to speak to you, obviously, after this about how to set an actual podcast up. Obviously, doing it Zoom at the moment is great, but I'm thinking post lockdown how it works. Like you've been visiting jiu-jitsu gyms and doing stuff like that, so I'm trying to think of ways and means of how I can do it with other guys, you know, whether it's in a gym, a coffee house, coffee shop, that type of thing. So
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it now. This is good stuff to get out there. I think I've discussed about this. I was invited on to a friend of mine who helped me, a guy called Hugh Kerr from his ex-parachute regiment, and he set up the HR podcast. And I literally had this idea in the back of my head for quite a while, where I wanted to interview ex-forces, amputees, war wounded, anybody that got through this, made an amazing recovery, and I felt they had the right to share their story. So I'd set this up. I wanted to speak to consultants. I wanted to speak orthopedic consultants, everything. I had this whole plan of this is what I wanted to do. And then what happens is you get a few bumps along the way, a few people that you think they'll definitely come on. They're like, well, I'm not really ready to share that. So then you go, oh, okay, that's knocked me out a little bit. And then you kind of go, well, I started off with quite a lot of my patients. So I was interviewing my patients saying, should we talk about your story? And, you know, but a lot of my patients were grapplers. So it evolved into this, you know, and then I changed the name, I think, into about 6 or 7, because it was the Primary Physio podcast. And I changed it to Grappling with Physio, and that made more sense because I was interviewing grapplers. But you know, be prepared to change and be prepared to kind of adapt, or, you know, and I know I've had to. I wanted to go out and I wanted to visit everywhere, and I had a list of all these people I wanted to interview and found their story fascinating, because I thought, well, if I can interview that person and somebody might hear this, doesn't matter if it's one person, whoever, they might pick it up, because I'd heard other people's stories and I was like, that is so interesting, and that really, you know, that's fascinating for me. So because of COVID, that's obviously, you know, you have to adapt. The Zoom thing for me has worked out brilliantly, because what I thought when I was going to the gyms and interviewing people was that there was a big market for the visual thing. So I was trying to be some sort of, there's a big guy in the BJJ community called Stuart Cooper, and he's done some amazing documentaries.
I watch his videos.
Yeah, and so he's a BJJ black belt himself, and he goes out and he films and all these people on the road to ADCC or champs, and I was like, this is probably a bit too much, you know. I'm not going to be able to do that. So you try your best and you try and make it as visual for the YouTube. But when I did an audit on my own where I get the most amount of my downloads, and, you know, it's actually Spotify or iTunes. So although the visual is, I would say, necessary, and it's good to set up, you know, a YouTube channel so people can see exactly what's going on. I think as long as people can listen to it, because people are listening to it driving to work, or maybe not now, but, you know, people were listening to it driving for work, going for walks, you know, and it's easy to download quickly on Spotify or iTunes. So don't, you know, if that's great and you can do the visit, then fantastic. Or if you can set up a studio, but don't let that could be a potential barrier. So what I've found is this, having the online ability to get somebody for an hour and a half, hit the record button and get some content out there, works really, really well. But obviously my gold standard is to go to places where people train, go to gyms, go to wherever, get out there, because it means I get to do a bit of traveling, I get to meet new people. So just be flexible with it. But that's one thing I would say I've learned. And sponsorship as well. So I approached the company about sponsorship because I thought, well, I'll get a few episodes underneath me first of all, and I got knocked back, you know. And you kind of think, well, I was convinced that you were going to go with me, and then when they knock you back, you kind of feel a bit like, ah. So you know, all these things.
Have you got any yet? Have you? Or?
No. I don't want much. I just want it to, because you have to pay for a platform. So whichever platform you go for, they will hold your episodes and they distribute it to things like iTunes and Spotify, and they carry a monthly fee, you see. So it's just being able to pay that, and And I suppose that's it. I mean, this is episode 23, and I'm still learning, mate. I'm still learning. The main thing was when I first started off, I wanted to do 12 episodes a year. So that gave me a month to get one episode out. And I thought, yeah, I can do that. I can stick to that. So don't do too much too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And then as it gets better and you get more confident and you start to like really enjoy it and stuff, it starts to evolve, and you think, well, I'll approach that person now, or they've got a good story, they've got something that someone can learn from. I'll give them a shout. So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to come across as an expert, because I'm not. I just wanted to do it from a real person's view, and then another person's view on, and just literally like two guys chatting and just literally their story. That's what I want to try and build, and just awareness really of just, that one person might be, like I say, listening to it thinking, I've been feeling like that, and just, it could help someone massively change their life.
Well, I've listened to podcasts in the past, from the top, from Joe Rogan, who's the king of podcasting, all the way down to some of the smaller ones, mental health, physical health training, different aspect of things, parenting podcast, all sorts. And there's been maybe a segment, and I thought, they're speaking to me. That's me. And I've took so much from it. And it's a great way of building content, because somebody, Spencer, will listen to this and they will relate to what you've said, and they will relate to your journey. Somebody might reach out to you after this and they might say, you know what? Maybe not. I've only got 87 subscribers. But if we get it out there and we do a good job,
it only needs one.
Well, you only need one, but somebody might say, look, I know exactly what you're talking about, or that is me. I need some advice. How did you cope with it? How did you deal with it? So I think definitely go ahead with it. It's a big market. There are lots of different subjects to be covered. There's lots of different audiences to be covered. When I interviewed Jeff Thompson, I was very conscious of the fact, because he was promoting the release of a new book, and he was also promoting the release of a film, Romans, that's due out. And I said, look, Jeff, I know you're on the circuit at the moment doing these podcasts, and I'm conscious I don't really want to be repeating what anyone else has said. He said, don't worry, even if you do, he said, it's to a different audience. He said, it's to your audience, and your audience will be completely different to somebody else. And I've listened to a few interviews that he's done with other people, and although the setting looks very similar, the content is completely different. So yeah, keep doing it, mate. Stick at it, and like the same methodology you've applied to building 365 strength, do it with your podcast, okay? And just don't put too much pressure on yourself to begin with, and I'm sure it will do really, really well. And you will tap into an area where it sounds like it's really needed, mate.
Oh, massively, because so you go on YouTube, and there's lots of guys in America will do YouTube channels on their story, but it's very, very, very almost non-existent in the UK. And I think I'm not saying I'm going to be the master of putting it out there, but just that little bit of info might spur someone on.
But you could be the linchpin to start it off. Maybe that's a good that you've just identified it there. There's a cultural difference, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing, because I say years of hassle and stress. Because I was going through periods where I was thinking, is this it? Is this what I'm going to feel like? Because I felt at times just so unbelievably crap, and just like, it just went from feeling pretty good to just shocking. I was just like, it felt like a cloud over me of just physical and mentally. And I think it was getting into a depression, because I was feeling worse all the time. I was thinking, I'm only going to get worse the older I get, hit 50, 60, less able to do more physical stuff. So I'll be more, walking rather than running, no weight training necessarily. I'm going to feel worse and worse and worse. So I said to the doctor, I can't carry on like this. Something needs to be done. And I'm lucky I found the clinic that I'm using. And I started last April, and I actually had a check-in with him on the phone 4 weeks ago now. And I said, I feel fantastic. My levels are high. They've got the balance with my estrogen levels just right, because that's been a bit of a playing game. My sleep's good now. So yeah, it's after about 4 long years, I can say now I'm good.
What a journey, God.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
What we'll do, Spencer, I'm conscious of the time now, and I don't want to keep you too long. If anyone wants to find the 365 product, 365 strength product, where can they kind of seek you out?
Well, the website's 365strength.com. There's also Facebook and Instagram. Instagram have, all the products, all the different people. It's generally built. The Instagram is pretty much ambassadors, customers from all around the world sending pictures in of them training or leisure, etc. So you can see the full, variants of all the different products we've got. Any questions, drop us a message. But yeah, that's pretty much where you'll find us. And keep an eye out as well for the Testosterone Diaries, because as I say, the Instagram page is built, but hopefully
So
the podcast will be along soon.
Testosterone Diaries on Instagram, yeah?
Yes.
Brilliant. Excellent. Right, mate. Well, yeah. Right. So thanks very much for your time. It's been great chatting, buddy.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up soon. Good man. Spencer Price from 365 Strength.
Thank you.